Funny thing, I know some of you probably don't have any feelings about Antifa, but I'll be honest with you. Even though I might not agree with everything that they're about, I do admire Antifa for a lot of reasons. They're the few that are actually standing against these alt-right scums in the street. And yes, they're not just white people in Antifa. There's all kinds of different people. Um, if you look on my interview sections, I interviewed one guy from there, and he is black. It was the same guy that Jesse Lee Peterson interviewed. And he's been an activist even before he joined Antifa, but that's another story. But this bill is interesting because you don't see them going after the Klan, and they've been masking themselves for for a long time since they've been around. But you don't see them aiming a bill at them and giving them even any kind of years in jail on a mass level like they do black people for sure. But these revolutionaries, anarchist, they're not communist, they're not capitalist, they're anarchist. You're definitely not going to see them let down on the Antifa guys that are masked because they don't support this system at all, you know. Anyway, this article goes as a new bill aims to send masked Antifa activists to jail for 15 years. Antifa activists could be jailed for 15 years for wearing a mask under a bill introduced by the U.S. congressman. If passed, Bill H.R. would punish anyone wearing a mask or disguise who injure, oppress, threaten, and intimidate someone else's exercising their right to guaranteed under the Constitution. Why don't you go under the alt-right? Because these fuckers are always doing that. And some of those dudes are masked as well. Why don't you do that? I want to see that. Where's the white identity extremist target? Where is the alt-right target for that? Anyway, the title of the bill is Unmasking Antifa. See, they made it specific. They wouldn't do that with the Klan or any of these other alt-right groups or these militias like the Algiers militia or the what was that one? The Oath Keepers, for even bringing guns out like that. You know these are devils that are making this law, of course. It makes it clear that Antifa activists are its intended targets, but the bill next year never explicitly mentions them. I'm sure that, yeah, whatever. The bill, which was introduced by Republican Rep. Dan Donovan of New York last month, has drawn widespread condemnation from its critics who claim it unfairly targets Antifa activists while it could embolden far-right demonstrators Antifa protest against. And it's all that they do. Keep in mind, Antifa were the ones that were protecting the people in the church in Charlottesville, and they've done a lot of things like that within the streets. And I mean, I had firsthand information from that interview that if you guys look, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's one of the few interviews that I have on here from Facebook. This is another draconian measure to actually criminalize dissent in the United States. Scott Crow, former Antifa organizer and author, said, because the law, even if it doesn't explicitly state leftists who mask up, that's who the largest potential target of the law is. He said far more than white nationalists. Yes, he did. The term Antifa is short for anti-fascist. It's used to refer to a loose coalition of individuals with left-leaning political views that fall outside of the mainstream Democratic Party platform. They don't trust the government, by the way. They don't trust any form of that. The group has no figurehead or official governing body, but members, some whom turn to radical or militant tactics to make their own views known, generally oppose the inequality of wealth by corporations and discrimination against email, against marginalized communities. They often wear black and obscure their faces while protesting. The Antifa movement's profile has significantly risen in recent years, especially after members clashed with self-described white nationalists in Charlottesville, in Virginia last summer. A day after that ended a tragedy when a James Alex Fields Jr. drove a car into a crowd of counter-protesters, killing one of the demonstrators, Heather Heyer. The Crow said the bill is an attempt by lawmakers to avoid tackling the issue of hate speech, instead addressing the symptom of its targeted protest. Let me read this. I always end up commenting during the article. Instead of dealing with that, they just rather deal with this, he said, which is to put a band-aid on something. He's right. Walter Schaub, a former director of official government ethics, tweeted about the bill on Tuesday, suggesting that it advanced authoritarianism. Yep. The two groups go to Charlottesville. A big group chants racist filth, wields semi-automatic rifles. Yep. Fires a gun into the crowd, murders a woman with a car, he wrote. A group wears masks. In its small group, these congressmen want to lock up for 15 years. Authoritarianism rises. He's right. Donovan's office sent out a fact sheet which pointed out other instances in which Antifa activists exhibited violence, including the instance in February 2017 where they turned up to a protest, a speaking event held by right-wing Milo commentator Milo Pedalopoulos at UC Berkeley. Nobody was even killed or murdered there. That's bullcrap. The only thing that was hurt was buildings, and it was even barely any of that. Come on, dude. That's a reach right there. Nobody even died. No one did. Usually when you get these alt-right devils, a lot of people, somebody's going to get hurt and die. At that thing at UC Berkeley, nobody even freaking died, dude. Nobody got hurt or anything like that. I think the front of a building got burned or a trash can got burned, but come on. They're caping for these devils, dude. This is how society is right here. You're caping for these racist motherfuckers, dude. And yet they want to freaking come down on Antifa for fighting against that. The same thing happened with the whole Marduk thing too. There was a threat, but of course, people don't want to see that. Donovan's spokesman Patrick Ryan also pointed out that the bill would simply add a section to the federal civil rights statute to include the penalty for wearing masks. How the fuck is that what does that have to do with the civil rights thing when you have all these white supremacists doing a lot of stuff like that, if not even worse? It's ridiculous. That's a reach. Ooh, I'm gonna wear a freaking mask. You guys, I'm telling you, yet they let this fool go. They let all these white supremacists, race soldiers go and want to be deputized white supremacists go after they kill people. Yeah, and they want to go after people with masks actually fighting against that shit. My bill expands upon long-standing civil rights bullshit statutes to make it a crime to deprive someone constitutionally guaranteed protections while masked or disguised, Donovan said in a statement to CNN. Americans have the right to speak and protest freely. No, they don't. Because the thing is, dude, he's speaking off for these alt-right idiots, I think, man. Oh, brother. Wait, I'm sorry. Americans have a natural right to speak clearly and protest freely It is not the right to throw Molotov cocktails and beat people while hiding behind a mask. Well, it's not right surrounding a church and basically like trying to break in because black people are in there. It's not right to be saying, oh, Jews will replace us and all these racist things like calling people nigger and all that stuff and shooting at people with a damn gun, you know, and getting off of that shit or running over people. Yeah, it's not right. It's not right to go up to, you know, New York and stab somebody because of their race. It's not right for some fucker to actually go and stab 2 women that had nothing to do with them. It's not right for a motherfucker, a stupid motherfucking devil, to shoot someone protecting his family from them. It's not right for a lot of that stuff. Fuck you, dude. Yeah, we're sick and tired of this stuff, man. Seriously. But regardless of whether the bill becomes a law, Crow, notice the last name Crow, said it would stop protesters from wearing masks. I don't think it's going to do that. If it will take away, if they take away the right to mask up, he said people will still do it anyway to fight against authoritarianism in any form. Anyways, you guys, tell me what you think about this. You know, I know some brothers and sisters say it's a non-issue when it comes to black people. I will say this, I understand that, but it just to show you how it even relates to us in a lot of ways too. Because I mean, yeah, they're coming after us, and not just because there are black members in this group, there are, but so much that it's so ridiculous because, as we know, it's like they're caping for these freaking devils, dude. You know, I will be the one that says I don't believe that every white person is a racist in that regard, but they have a potential to become that because of just the system being varied to them. And they have a decision. And I know people that decide not to and that are trying to learn not to be that way, you know. But the ones that are, it seems like they're in power. And they've been in power. They've been at the start of this country, you know. And I'll be honest, you know, I don't, like I said before, I don't agree with everything that Antifa does, but I do admire the fact that they've been out in the streets. This is before Trump too, by the way. They've been out in the streets protesting all these alt-wrong groups that people are just finding out about, you know. I knew about some of these groups already, you know, and Antifa were the ones, and many of their associates, they were the ones warning people about stuff like this, you know. Or like, you know, when you read underground newspapers back in the day, it was Behind the Walls of Justice. It was like sort of a bunch of anarchist sort of punk type people put that out. That was one of the resources that I'd go to, you know. I mean, Antifa has been around since the 30s, I think, maybe even the 20s. But like, yeah, they've made a few resurgences within the last few decades. They've been around, at least in this form. You know, most of them are known as sort of punk rockers or anti-racist skinheads or whatever, or just sort of like peacenik type people that are, and most of them are collectively anarchist, you know. But there has always been an element to their resistance when it comes to anti-racism and all that. They've always been at the forefront of that, you know. Even with, you know, a lot of anarchist Panthers, I'm sure, you know, them being inspired by like a lot of the movements that some of the brothers and sisters, of course, the Panthers and, you know, other groups. But yeah, I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. Peace.